Hi, it's Assets and Arbitrage with Aaron and Simon, and today we are giving you the show you were waiting for, time and thermodynamics. We're going to start off with time, and time is your most precious commodity. So the show is about assets and arbitrage. Where can we get the most impact for whatever it is that we're doing? One of the things I remember is when we lived in the United States, we had like a rush lifestyle. I felt like you got up, you rushed to work, you rushed the kids to school, you rushed home, you rushed dinner, you rushed to bed, rinse, repeat. But when we found our financial arbitrage traveling abroad, I felt like time slowed down. Like we have more of a day, we have more of an evening, we have more quality time. I felt like it's weird to say that, but I just felt like things kind of just slowed down a little bit. It wasn't that rush lifestyle.
Right. So yeah, we're talking about time. You know, we're going to get a little scientific. We're just going to scratch the surface. We won't keep you here too long with boring details. But with time, a lot of people study time. They want to know, is time linear? Is time relative? And things of that nature. Now, what I'm going to talk about it from the theory of general relativity as posited by Albert Einstein. That's how I want to talk about time. Okay, so what we want to talk about is everybody knows that we live in a three-dimensional world, right? 3D, right? You go up and down, right and left, forward and backwards. But as Albert Einstein, he added the fourth dimension, which is called space-time. And we want to talk about space-time as it in regards to Bitcoin, right? So what is space-time, right? Space-time is the fourth dimension. It is a simple way to put it that they always put it is you've never been in a place and not at a time. If you've never been at a time, not at a place. So if I tell Aaron, I say, meet me tomorrow at 4, what's your first question? Where? So that. And then if I said Applebee's, I say, and if I also say, meet me at Applebee's tomorrow, what's your first question? What time? So that's the coordinate. It's a coordinate system. So if you guys are familiar with kinematics, so kinematics is the study of position charts. So velocity, acceleration, and position. So that's what we're doing. We're trying to talk about coordinates of position. So how does that relate to Bitcoin? All right. Okay. So we have talked about this before, but I'll bring it back up. Robert Breedlove talks about locking your monetary energy up in Bitcoin so you can move it across space and time. And it sounds kind of complicated, but it's not. All it means is if you bought some Bitcoin in 2012, you locked up your monetary energy in Bitcoin and you moved it across 10 years. And now you unlock that energy, right? And from a physics standpoint, what you did is you took your monetary energy and you locked it up. You made it potential energy, and then you move it across space and time when it's unlocked as kinetic energy. And so this is just how it relates to time. Time is it's very, like she said, it's your most valuable asset, right? You can never get back any more. You have a finite amount. And what is Bitcoin? Finite amount. So it's a scarcity thing. So yes, we're just going to talk about how that intertwines, and we're going to get into the thermodynamic part of it. But yeah, the time is just really the coordinate system on the space-time, right? You want to move it. If you draw a Cartesian graph and you can see it, you could plot it out. You could put years on it. You could plot it out. You could plot the graph out. As the price goes up, you have moved your monetary energy across time. And when they say space, you may be somewhere in another place. Like we live abroad. You can move it across space. So you can take it from one country to another. You can move it across space and time.
Did you want to do time theft?
No, I'll leave that one
alone. So one of the, I think, critical aspects of Bitcoin, not only the ability to move it across space and time, but let's talk about the convenience of it. Because you can move 10,000 ounces of silver and gold across space and time, but it's heavy and you have to protect it,
You'd have to protect it.
right?
That's right.
You have to account for it, whereas I can move the Bitcoin across space and time and not have to tell anybody about it.
No, nobody.
But I do have to declare the silver when I'm transporting it across. Because obviously, if I'm going from New York to California, that's space and time.
Yes.
I have to declare it from one point to the other.
Mm-hmm.
With the Bitcoin, put my phone in my pocket, put my iPad in my purse, good to go.
Yeah, you're good to go. And that's one of the things, it's very transportable, and that's what we like, as a family who moves around. We don't want to, have a whole bunch of. We do have physical silver, just enough that we can transport it, but we want our wealth to be with us. We like I said before, we used to have a few, about 5 or 6 rental properties, and we were trying to manage them from another country, which was a disaster because something was always wrong. And it's hard to get the rent from people. It's not like I could just come up to your house and say, "Hey, where's the rent?" I'm in another country, so we had to have a management company, and it got tiring. And we said, "Hey, how can we move our wealth into something?" And when we found Bitcoin, that's when we're like, "Okay, this is it." And not just Bitcoin. You have other digital assets, but we like Bitcoin because it is like it's like digital property in cyberspace. Excuse me, I'm sorry. And like we said, it's taxed as property, so it is a property for us. We treat it as property, and we can move it across space and time. We've been in Mexico for 5 years. Not to say that we're going to be here much longer. We could be. It doesn't know. We don't know. It's always an opportunity to go somewhere else. But if we decide to move, we can pack our stuff up and we can take our assets across space and time. And that's one of the big things about Bitcoin. So, the time is, like she said, the time is relative, right? People will have these questions about time. Is it linear? Is it non-linear? We can get into a deeper conversation about that, but that would kind of just be a strictly some kind of physics. I'm not trying to do a physics course, but understand that when we just talked about these three, we just talked about the 4 dimensions, right? Each dimension, except time, you can move across it in different directions, right? You can go up and down, you can go right and left, forward or backwards. Time is the only one that you can't arbitrarily move back and forward in, right? So that's why it's like it's the point on the graph, right? You can't arbitrarily move back and forth that we know of, right? But that could be another show. But as it is now, people kind of go linear in time. Time goes forward, and there's a lot of different thoughts and theories on whether you go forward in time. Is time already written? Is it so? We can go on for hours about that. But basically, we're just saying is how time interacts with Bitcoin, right? The thing which the most important thing that I like is this: is moving your monetary energy, right? And we're going to come back to that because when we say monetary energy, all that means is if you go to work, no matter what you do for a living, you have to output energy to get your check, your salary, right? You want to be able to keep that energy and have that energy be the same amount, but hopefully more across time. And that's what we're talking about. And that's where the thermodynamics is going to come in. I'm going to let her say what she got to say, then we're going to hit the thermodynamics part of it.
I was going to say, too, one of the good things about Bitcoin when you talk about time and space is you could have $10 million in Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. You could have $100 million in Bitcoin, mm-hmm. and just move it from one place to the other without the third party counter risk, without, and it be easily liquidated, right? So if I had $100 million property, like, didn't you tell me Jordan's house is still?
Yeah, Michael Jordan's house is still on the market from Chicago when he played with the Bulls. People, that's the thing about real estate is it's not that it's not a nice house, but who can afford it? And then people who can afford houses like that typically will build their own house to their liking. I mean, probably the only thing about it is somebody might buy it because it was Michael Jordan's house. but it's still on the market. So I guess that's not the thing. These people who have these really expensive houses, only a few people can afford them, and so like your market is very small. Nobody can afford to rent it. Nobody can afford to buy it, and so it's just going to be on the market. Unfortunately, where like she said, if that was all Bitcoin, and of course there was no Bitcoin back then, but if that was all Bitcoin, you can move it and liquidate it and however you need to move it around. So I'm not banging on real estate. We've had real estate, we still have real estate, but I'm kind of I'm more of a Bitcoin guy as far as that comes. As keeping our wealth and how we can move it around.
But two, when we talk about liquidating it, if you sold the house, you have to sell the whole house. You couldn't just sell part of the house, right? If you said I have $100 million house, but I only need 50 million, I know you guys are saying you want to take the equity out in the house and this and that and the third.
You're gonna get a HELOC if you want.
But what I'm saying is, if this is my home and I own it,
mm-hmm.
and it's worth 100 million, and I only need 50 million, I am now borrowing my own money and paying a third party interest to use my own money.
Yes, you are.
That don't jive with me.
Mm-mm.
So we just want to give you guys some insight as to the widening of your world lens into looking at Bitcoin. Everybody's like, yeah, Bitcoin's great, but here's some of the scientific reasons why, and that's what this show is about today.
Yeah, so we'll go into thermodynamics. We might do a couple of the laws, but thermodynamics basically is what? To keep it quick, it's the study of heat in relation to other energy, right? So you say, well, how does thermodynamics and Bitcoin, how does that intertwine? So we're going to go to the first law, and I'm sure you guys all know the first law of thermodynamics, but we're just going to restate it, right? So the first law is basically the law of conservation, okay? In a closed system, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transferred. And it's like, okay, get it. So what does that mean? Bitcoin essentially is a closed system. And the reason I say that is because scarcity. There are 21 million. The system is closed. None can be added, right? That makes for a closed system. So the energy within that system can only be transferred. Now, why is that important? Because when you're dealing with fiat money, that is an open system. That is not a closed system because they print money and money can be added to the system. So what happens is if you have an open system, it leaks energy, right? So as money is printed, it loses value. You know the dollar has lost its value since they took it off the gold standard and we could do all the numbers. But the dollar loses its value. It's losing its value. That's an open system. An open system is leaking energy, where Bitcoin, being a closed system, is containing the energy. And that's a big deal because people like to keep their wealth in a system that is leaking their energy out. And that kind of ties into time theft. Now, we're not going to go into time theft today because that's a very long concept. But as an open system leaks energy, you want to put your money in a closed system that conserves the energy. You want to conserve your energy. So a simple example of that, say you got to go to work in the morning, right? You get up, you make a pot of coffee. You put it in your thermos. Takes you 45 minutes to get to work. Boom, you're at work, you open the thermos, your coffee is as hot as when you made it, right? A closed system. You conserve the energy and the heat in the coffee. Conversely, you put your coffee just in a cup with no lid, right? Drive to work, 45 minutes. By the time you get there, the coffee's cold. You know why? Because it was an open system that leaked out the energy. So Bitcoin being a closed system, like the first law of thermodynamics, law of conservation. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. So you have this amount of energy that is stored, goes back to time, that you can now move across space and time, right? That might be 10 years. So, that's just some of the things we want to talk about. There's we can go into the other laws of thermodynamics. They're a little bit more philosophical, but I don't know. Do you want to go philosophical, or we want to just keep it scientific?
Yeah, we Aquarius, we could do it. But I did want to say,
Mm-hmm.
because you keep mentioning energy,
Mm-hmm.
it's also conserving your energy.
Mm-hmm.
You can work less hours, you can probably work less years, you can retire earlier, just depending on how you are stockpiling the asset. The point of it is to allow you to conserve your time, your energy, your labor, right? And that is also part of that law of conservation. So while Bitcoin is conserving the monetary energy, it's also conserving your physical energy because you got to physically do whatever it is you do every single day for however many hours you do it, however many days, weeks, months, years, decades.
And decades. And remember, the definition of energy in physics is the ability to do work. That is what the definition of energy is, right? And we could get up some equations and stuff, but we're not trying to go that far with it. Unless you want to, let us know. The energy is the ability to do work. So what do? You have to get up, you got to go to work, you use energy, you get a certain amount of money, you want to store the money because the money is really energy. That's what it is. And you want to store it in some store of value that you can move across space and time. That is what you want to do. And, I can't speak for Bitcoin, but if you were to go travel into the future, right, you don't want to take fiat currency. You would take gold or silver because gold or silver has been money for over 5,000 years, right? So that is energy that you can move across space and time and unlock it later at a later date. And that is unlocking that potential energy and releasing it as kinetic energy. So that's the first law, law of conservation of energy. The second law is a little more. Do you want to talk about the second law? So the second law is basically everything trends towards entropy, right? So it just everything goes from order to disorder. So I've listened to different people and I've read about this. The way that it has been explained is, as you see the world moving forward, you notice more chaos, chaos, disorder. Everybody wants Bitcoin to be what? 200,000, 250,000, 500,000, whatever per coin. But understand, if it is that price, the world will be in ultimate chaos. The dollar will, if not collapse, be collapsing. So, I want Bitcoin price to go up as well. People are what are they projecting $1 million Bitcoin by 2030? Well, if Bitcoin's $1 million by 2030, then the world is in chaos, and that's entropy, right? The entropy of Bitcoin is as Bitcoin gets stronger, the entropy of the world is going from order to disorder, chaos. And that's, in a simple way, I try to just explain it simply. If you cleaned your house up, right, over time, the clothes will pile up, dishes will pile up, garbage and everything. It's just over time, it goes from order to disorder if you don't intervene, right? And so that's all the second law is saying, is that over time, things go from orderly to disorderly. And when Bitcoin was invented, the world was a little more orderly. Little, not I'm total. It wasn't totally orderly, but over time, as Bitcoin has grown, you've noticed that the world has gotten more disorderly, more chaotic. Every day it's getting chaotic. It's more chaotic. So, and that's kind of a philosophical. It's not actually scientific, but
from an economic standpoint, before the Federal Reserve came into being, your economic environment is the word I'm looking for, was orderly. Gold was the check and the balance, right?
Yep.
So when they had the paper dollars, and at that point in time, because the United States wasn't this federal thing that we know now, different states had different dollars, and it didn't matter. Whatever the denomination on that dollar was, there was the measurement of gold to back that dollar, right? So that's order. Two, When you worked, your economic energy pushed you into profit.
Yes.
When the leaders, right, the diabolical shadow government is what I'm gonna call them, got together and realized these people are not borrowing money from the bank because when they work, gold is accounting for every single thing that they do. It's pushing them into profit.
Yeah.
It was pushing the economic environment into a prosperity, and therefore there was your order.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When the Federal Reserve came into being and they said, oh, okay, what we're going to do is we are going to force them to take out loans. That way we can push it into a little bit of disorder so that we can create profit for us
Yes.
through debt.
Through debt, yep.
As time went on, what happened in Bretton Woods?
Oh, well,
We
not
took the
Bretton Woods.
gold.
It was Nixon took 1971. He took the U.S. dollar off the gold standard in 1971, right? Because Bretton Woods was when they backed it, but it was a fractional backing
But
of
that's
the
why I
dollar.
wanted to
Yeah,
like go in the order.
yeah. But then he just took it all the way off the
Mm-hmm.
gold standard, and it just became debt, right? And that's why people call it the petrodollar now, because it's backed by, I guess, backed by oil, as they say.
But I just wanted to show you how it went from order to disorder.
Mm-hmm.
So you had where gold accounted for every single dollar that was in circulation. Then Bretton Woods said, we're going to take some of the gold off, and you're going to need more dollars for the same amount of gold that you had last time. And then when we got to Nixon, now there's no gold accounting.
No.
And we're just printing money. So from the 70s to 2022, look at inflation today.
Yeah, inflation is crazy. We in Mexico. Inflation is out of control over here. Stuff is going up. We go to the store. You're like, this goes up. And like I look at the percentages, right? We used to go get 20 liters of water for 10 pesos. So 10 pesos is about rate adjusted 50 cents. 20 liters of water for about 50 cents. They raised the price to 13 pesos, which is saying, well, that's only 3 pesos. So that's only 1, 2, 3, maybe 15 cents. But what it is they raise it 30%. That's where you're starting to get to hyperinflation. The numbers look small. We go to the store, we buy some cooking oil, some olive oil. It went from 18 pesos to 26 pesos. You're like, not a big deal. It's 8 pesos. I said, no, but it's a big deal because it's almost 40%. Mm-hmm. If I'm doing the math correct real quick, it's almost 40%, I think. Yeah, okay. It might be closer to 50. And that's a big deal because if you're raising stuff 40 and 50% across the board, everybody's going to get priced out the market. And then what happens is that people who are like small business owners and the vendors, they have to raise their prices. So everything is going up and up. And it's getting out of control. I don't know about the U.S. I read the stories. I haven't been there in quite a while, but it appears to be bad from the people I talk to and the things that I read. So, inflation gets back because you have inflation. That is an open system that is leaking monetary energy.
At a rate, like...
At a high rate. So you can't keep your monetary energy in an open system. You want to keep it in a closed system where the energy can be conserved. That's why it's called the law of conservation. Conserve the energy. The energy will be conserved. I know people get upset with the fluctuations of the price of Bitcoin, and that's just part of, how it's going to be. But if, that's why they say when in doubt, zoom out, right? Zoom out and then look at the overall, how it's overall been, and you'll see like, okay, this is the best way to go. Right. And you can have other investments. Like I said, we're precious metal investors. We love precious metals. Precious metals, to me, as I've understood it over the years, is more about conserving your spending power. Right. So the old saying is 1 ounce of gold across time should buy a man a fine suit. So gold is about, I don't know, maybe $1,900 an ounce right now. So I assume for $1,900 you could get a fine suit. Back in the 80s, gold was $250 an ounce. Back then, $250 would have got you a fine suit. But what you notice is it holds its spending power. If you got 1 ounce of gold, whether it's 100 years ago or 100 years in the future, it will always get you a fine suit. So that's what they're saying as far as gold and silver and other precious metals, platinum, palladium, keeping your purchasing power. You may not really gain as far as like Bitcoin, you might not have exponential gains, but what it will do is if you put $10,000 in gold and 20 years from now the 10,000 is worth 30, 35,000, you still have that purchasing power. Where if you just kept $10,000 in cash, you're losing purchasing power because you kept it in an open system that is leaking monetary energy. And we want to keep because we work hard for our money, we want to keep our fiat currency. Let me be correct. We work hard for our fiat currency. We want to keep it in a system that's closed, that conserves energy, that you can move across space and time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and precious metals was the original money.
Yeah, of course. Mm-hmm.
It's been money for I'm going to say over 6,000 years, because of Christ was about 6,000 years ago. Remember, they dimed them out for 30 pieces of silver.
30 pieces
so
of
it's
silver.
even older than that.
Yeah, 30 pieces of silver.
So, and that's just a way for us to also diversify our investment portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
It's something good that we have for the children, because they get to hold it, they get to look at it, they get to look through it. I think it's important for especially the smaller children to understand wealth in a physical way.
Mm-hmm.
Not Scrooge McDuckish, but if so, that's good, right?
Yeah.
It'll go into their subconscious and they'll always feel like they're wealthy. But we really want to find ways, especially in the current economy, which is spiraling out of control, to conserve monetary energy as well as physical energy. You talked about time and space.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I would like for people to consider is you can only be in one space at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're at work. You're not at home. Well, if you work from home, let's say if you're at a physical place of employment, that is where you are. You're not in Aruba. You're not at Sandals. You're not. So understanding too, how can I optimize the space and time that I'm in?
Yes, you have to optimize it. And that's a perfect point, because you have to really, if you're working, you're trading your time, which is your most precious commodity, for fiat currency. I mean, you could cut it how you want to. I mean, we all need money. We all got to live. We got to eat. We need a roof over our head. But you're trading your most precious commodity, which is time. You cannot give it more back. Nobody can ever give you more time. You don't even know how much time you have. So then it's so precious that you don't know when will your time end. Will your time end tomorrow? Will it end 40 years from now? So you're trading your most precious commodity for fiat currency, okay? So like I said earlier, the ability to do work is energy. So now you're working, so that's energy. That's why when you lock your energy in Bitcoin, that's why it's monetary energy. You took the energy that you how would you say, energy
that you exerted?
That you exerted. You took the energy that you exerted to get fiat currency. And then you have to take the fiat currency and put it into something that will conserve the exerted energy that you have, and that you can move across space and time. Meaning, simply, something as simple as you work 30 years, when you retire, all that energy that you exerted and you turned into monetary energy, you want to be able to unlock that energy at a greater value, not in a closed system, not in an open leaking system like fiat currency. So, you put all your money in a bank account and savings account over all those years, you might have stacked up a nice little piece of change, but it was in a leaking system where you could have put it in a closed system and it could have conserved the energy and grown over time, and you moved it over space and time with growth.
Mm-hmm. We're going to do another law.
No, I mean, that's it. You go
there was enough science today, you guys.
No, I mean, the third law is, it doesn't really, I mean, it gets even more philosophical, but, we just wanted to say that time is very important, your most important commodity. So use your time wisely.
Yes.
And if you're using your time, if you're trading your time for fiat currency, then you have to use that wisely.
Yeah.
You have to, because at some point you run out of time. You just run out of time. And I don't even mean that you die, but just the fact that you run out of time where you can no longer trade your time for fiat currency because you're too old, or you have some injuries or some ailments where it's like, okay, you have to stop. That's why people retire, because it can't work anymore. You can't, so you want to take the time and the energy, the ability to do work that you had all those years, and put it into something closed system wise. And that way, when you're ready to retire, you have something to get to end of life. Because this is what it gets about. I mean, the next level is generational wealth, right? Generational wealth is like a next level thing, but the level before that, you just want to have enough money to get to the end of your life, right? Like we said in the other show, homelessness is man, it's on the rise. It's on the rise, and that is a real thing because people always think, well, it wouldn't happen to me, but I watch some of these YouTubers, and they go around and interview the homeless people, and it's bad. It's bad out there. It is bad out there. People out there talking about, I got a master's degree in this, that, and the third, but you're homeless. And once you get homeless, it's hard. It's hard to get back. It's hard to get back into what would you call it, like traditional housing.
Yeah.
Because of all the things, especially in the United States, all the references. Where have you lived for the last 2 years? And this and so homelessness is on the rise, and it is something that we have to be aware of. That's why you want to have something for yourself towards the end of your life. That's why you want to lock your stuff up in something like Bitcoin. And I'm not saying Bitcoin is the only asset. Just it's our asset that we like. It's our favorite asset. We get it. It's a whole bunch of digital assets. Just know what you're doing when you're dealing with these assets. We like it for the scarcity of it, because the scarcity ties right in to that first law of thermodynamics, right? Because the system is closed. Now, Bitcoin's system is closed. It's not like you're going to find out, oh, there's another 25 million Bitcoin. You're like, what the hell? The system's closed. So this is what it is. All that there is what we have now. And that's a good thing, because that allows the conservation of energy on an upward trajectory. And that's what you want. It's not a get rich quick scheme. If you caught it early, you might have leveled up if you caught it early. But I don't know if it's going to jump up exponentially like that. And like I said, if it does jump up exponentially, then that's the second law, because we're going to have some chaos and disorder in just our life. So, this is part of the game. We out here, we living life, trying to build wealth. And I don't know. Do we need to hit another part of it?
No, I think we can do another show, which we should. And that way, people may have questions, and we could address those at the same time we're finishing off the laws. But I would also say that, like we were saying before, we're just giving you perspectives based on our life experiences that we sit, we study, we meditate on. I'm hoping that after watching the show, you guys have a newfound appreciation for Bitcoin, understanding the patience that's involved with wealth building, right? Wealth building is a marathon. It is not a sprint.
It is not.
So when you shift your perspective and say, oh, okay, now that I understand this, how the science correlates with the actual Bitcoin, I can form a strategic plan. I can stick with it. I can be consistent.
And something I forgot to mention, and she told me to talk about it, but I'll just get into it real quick, is that, they talk about Bitcoin being immutable, right? So the laws of physics are immutable. And why is that important? The laws of physics, as we understand them, cannot be changed, right? So, I'm sure you guys know, but immutable just means it can't be changed. Now, if Bitcoin's immutable, there are people out there who say that Bitcoin wasn't created, it was discovered. So that's interesting, because the laws of physics weren't created, they're discovered. They will exist before people are here, they will exist after we are all gone. The laws of physics exist no matter what. It's just the people discovered them. They did not create them. And they posit that Bitcoin was not created, but discovered. So that's something, that gets a little philosophical. We don't want to go too deep down the rabbit hole.
I'm going to go a little deep and then we're going to
Pause.
go.
But
Pause.
we don't want to go too far.
The laws of physics, for those of you who read the Bible, the Torah, the Quran, these are aspects and attributes that demonstrate the universe is an intelligent design. For people like me who are spiritual and metaphysical, that it shares the same attributes as the creator. Whoever he is to you, he's God to me. But it shares the same attributes. Something that is immutable is always and forever. It is the Alpha, it is the Omega. It will be here, as Max would say, it's going to be here long after we're gone.
Yeah, just be
Bitcoin
mining.
Yeah, Bitcoin will still exist even when humans no longer exist, or whatever new thing is going to be here on this planet. So we just kind of wanted to, I want to say, hit y'all with the Aquarius powder.
Well, no, it's just a little bit of science, so you guys, we can talk more about it if you want. I mean, because it goes deeper. We just, like I said, we're just scratching the surface right there. We wanted to just get you in those first 2 laws. I mean, there's 4 laws. It was 3 laws, but you have the 0th law. So it's 4 laws, and we could talk about all of them. But really, the first law scientifically is the one that matters, about the closed system and conservation of energy. And your energy that you put out to get the fiat currency to put here. You want to conserve your energy. That's a way, not to say, it's a way that you can just, because the energy that you expel to get the money, right? You don't want it to be worth less when you unlock the potential energy to kinetic energy later. You want it to be worth more. So, this is the stuff we talk about, especially, like I said, I worked very physical jobs, so I was very adamant about my energy being used correctly, and just keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind as you're out here and you're grinding, you're picking up extra shifts, you got a second job, whatever you're doing, you're working late hours. Just keep that in mind because, that energy that you expel over time, and eventually you won't be able to expel that amount of energy to get that fiat currency, and then it's coming.
Maybe you want to spend it on something that you feel is important.
Right. So
now we did the science of Bitcoin, but for those of you who aren't as familiar with how the U.S. banking economy works, we have a video in the link that we've done for you guys, as well as for those of you who don't understand the Federal Reserve because they are the puppeteers.
Yeah.
We have that link as well, and that way you can gain a more comprehensive, now I get the whole fiat thing, how the economy is basically foundationally or structurally created in debt in order for a small group of people to profit.
And we could go over, I know we're on the Bitcoin channel, so I never know. You guys hit me up and let me know. We can go over the definition of real money and some of the characteristics and how, people just try to use money interchangeably with fiat currency when it's not money. And we could talk about that for a little while, which is very important for people to understand the difference between money and fiat currency, because they have different properties. And fiat currency meets most of the properties, but it doesn't meet all of them. Where money, which over the time was gold and silver, and now Bitcoin meets all of those properties. So we can do a show about that. That's interesting stuff. And, I don't know. Tell me. Do we need anything else? We got
hit us in the comments. Let us know.
Yeah, we got the first 2 laws out the way. Let us know. Let us know what you think about time. And, I'm gonna put this PDF book in here. It's called Time and Thermodynamics by Dr. Kyle Kirkland. Very interesting book. It's a textbook, so it's not an easy read, but you can just kind of finger through it and get some of the information. We'll put it in the description, and
I'll do my best to put it in the description.
Yeah, I'm not sure how if it will.
If you want it, email us. Our email address is in the link because we can't just send it from iBooks to your email. That might be easier.
Yeah, it might be easier.
Then because it's kind of heavy, I don't know if I can get in the link,
Yeah,
but
it's pretty
definitely
heavy.
check out the 2 videos: how the U.S. banking actually works,
Mm-hmm.
for those of you who aren't familiar, and how the Federal Reserve came into being. You want to check
Yeah.
those videos out so that this video makes all the more sense as to you moving different, you being strategic,
Mm-hmm.
and you 10xing whatever it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah, and being very, very cognizant of your use of time. Even if you're using your time and it's not about being compensated, your use of time, how do I use my time? You don't want to waste time. You want to use your time very efficiently, whether it's learning or what anything. We say health as well. You can use your time, getting healthy and exercising, but use your time efficiently because it's your most precious commodity, and you don't know how much time you have.
Mm-mm.
You do not know, and we talked about this, and did we talk about this on the show? But just like I said, my timeline on social media is flooded with a lot of young people dying, and they're not telling you why, so we don't know. Young people typically don't just die. It's not from like violence or, something like that. They're just dying. So you don't know how much time we have. None of us know how much time we have. Let's use our time wisely. At work, if you're trading your time for fiat, use the fiat that you got for the time that you traded. Use it very wisely. Use your time wisely.
All right, you guys. We love you guys. We appreciate you. We are so glad that you guys are enjoying our content. If you guys want to support us, all we ask you do is to share the video. That's all we ask.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys on,
I think Monday.
Monday.
Yeah,
Wow,
Monday.
it's already Wednesday.
Okay.
This week went by fast. We'll see you guys Wednesday, and thank you for joining.